And what I mean by giving them what they want is every child that comes into your ministry is in a different stage of development in their life. And the parents that walk into your church, they're needing something from you. They're wanting something from you. They're looking for something from you. And what they're looking for is dependent on the stage of development that they are currently in. Okay? The stage of development that they are currently in. Because what I need for my 10-year-old daughter is very, very different than what I need for my 16-year-old sons. And it's very, very different from what a parent of a toddler would need from you. So today, when we talk about giving them what they want, we're going to create a ministry strategy to impact and engage families. Now, let's talk about that, impact and engagement. So I want to give you a formula today. Impact plus value equals engagement. Impact plus value equals engagement. Now let's define this. Impact, what is impact? I would define impact as remarkable moments, okay? Remarkable moments. Remarkable moments are moments that make such an impression that families walk away and remark on their experience. They get in the car and they talk about your church. They talk about what happened. They go to work and they talk about what happened at church. They go to school and they talk about what happened. Those are remarkable moments. So we've got to be creating remarkable moments if we're going to have an impact. Just for an example, if a new family walks into your church and they're like, hey, can you tell me where the baby's room is? And you're like, oh, it's just down the hall on the left. It's definitely not going to make an impact, right? If you're like, hey, let me walk with you, and while I'm walking with you, let me tell you about the pickup process so that it'll be easy for you when you're leaving. That's a remarkable moment. It's very, very different. Take some intentionality. So impact means that we're going to be creating remarkable moments. The other part of that equation is value. How do we bring value to what we want? Because if we want parents to engage with us, then we've got to create an impact and we've got to bring value so that they will then say, I think I want to engage. I think I want to partner with them. What they're doing aligns with my values, and that brings on our next point. If remarkable moments create impact, then alignment brings value. We have to align our strategies with what parents are needing and wanting it for us. For far too long, the church has been like, you can just change and you can show up and you can be what we need you to be, instead of saying, hey, we'll meet you exactly where you are, whatever stage you are in, and we will help you. We'll meet you there. And when we do, when we align our strategy with what parents are needing and wanting, we bring value, and that leads to engagement. Remarkable moments, that brings impact. Alignment, that brings value. And engagement, that's how you partner with parents. That's how you get them to connect. That's how you get them to choose to connect with your ministry. So, let's move on. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago, and it kind of picked up traction on the interwebs. And I do know that's not called interwebs. That was a joke. Okay. So I tweeted this statement, and I want to read it to you because it's kind of long. Family ministry leaders spend the majority of their week working on their 60 to 90 minutes of kid-friendly programming. They rarely spend any time preparing for the parent drop-off or pickup, but this is the only opportunity that we will have to engage parents on the weekend. It is both the first and last impression that you will make on a parent, but we spend no time preparing for it. Let's just be honest. Let's get real transparent. How many of you all, and it's okay if you did, I want you to raise your hand if you did, how many of you all spent any of your work week preparing for your parent pickup and drop off this week? Raise your hand if you spent any time. Okay, so a couple. How many of you all prepared for your programming for next week? Right, because kids would show up and you would have nothing for them to do. But here's what I'm saying. We only get a couple seconds on the front end, a couple seconds on the back end, and that's the only time that we have to engage with parents, and we are squandering it because we're not preparing for it. So today, what I want to do is I want to give you a strategy that will create a common language for your volunteers, okay? We're going to create a common language for your staff and volunteers that will marry purpose and inspiration. What do I mean by that? Purpose. We all know why we're here. We want to lead kids and lead families into a deeper relationship with Jesus, right? Inspiration are the people. That's why we're in this, right? Of course, we want people to grow in their faith, but also the people themselves. Like, we want them to experience it. We love them. That's why we're in it. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you 4 key words. We're going to create a common language that you can take back to your volunteers, and it will align your values, it will align your priorities, and it will say, we're going to marry our purpose, which is to see people grow in their relationship with Christ, with our inspiration, which is to connect with parents, to connect with families, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to have a greater impact, and parents are going to choose to engage with our ministry. So let's start. I talked to you in the beginning where I said everyone is needing something different from you, depending on their stage of development, right? Depending on their child's stage of development. We're going to start with babies and toddlers. How many volunteers or staff members do I have in the room that work with babies and toddlers? Raise your hand. Okay, so the word for babies and toddlers is care. So when I say this, what I'm saying is you to go back to your volunteers, you go back to your teams, you go back to your other staff members, and you say to them, hey, listen, everything we do is important. Yes, it's all important, but there are a few things that are more important at each stage of development. And so for us, what's most important at the stage of babies and toddlers is care. Because parents are nervous. Like, these are the most vulnerable among us. They can't speak up for themselves. This is the age of separation anxiety. I mean, how many of you will have screaming toddlers in your classrooms? Like, parents are nervous to give you their child. And the entire time that they are sitting in the worship service, they are wondering if their child is crying and doing well. So it's not enough to plan a 60 to 90 minute wonderful programming where you care for these babies and these toddlers and to not show that care during drop-off and pickup. We have to show it during drop-off and pickup. So I live in the practical, so I'm going to give you some super practical ideas of how you can do this. One of the things that we did was we just had a chart directly inside of our room. So when parents walked up to drop off their baby or their toddler, we asked a whole bunch of questions. What time is their bottle supposed to be given? Are they going to take a nap? Are they potty training? How many moms or grandparents, like, give me a shout, like a woot woot. Like, how many moms, dads, grandparents do I have of toddlers who are potty training right now? Okay, so you all know that your schedule lives and dies on when they go to the bathroom, okay? So if parents need to know that, then why would we not tell them that during drop-off and pickup? That's what they're wanting from us. They need to know that we're caring for them. Or they're caring for their child. They need to know that we're into the details. So at drop-off, we would have a list of things that we would, like, take down all the names. If a child was struggling with separation anxiety, we would also ask for their phone number that they had with them, and we would put a little check mark. Is it okay to text you a picture? And if a child was struggling with separation anxiety, we would take a picture of the child once they calmed down and were happy, and we would send it to mom and dad in the worship service. And we would say, hey, they're doing great. Relax and enjoy the service. You just put their mind at ease, and you just conveyed care to mom and dad. Now, on the pickup part of that, at the top of the handout, I'm sure you all give handouts to parents. At the top of that handout, before we got into the Bible verse and all that kind of other stuff, at the very top, we put all these little boxes and these lines, and it was what time the bottle was given, how long their nap was, who they played with, all that kind of information. And then we went through that information at pickup. Now, I want you to imagine, we had campuses with like 6,000 to 8,000 people. We had rooms with 40 babies in them, and yet we still took time to work through every single of those parent communication sheets. The reason is because they could stand in a long line, okay? They could stand in a long line, and they may be frustrated at the long line, but if they get up and they connect, they have a personal connection with a volunteer at the door, and they give them all the information, they're going to have a remarkable moment. They're going to get in the car, and they're not going to talk about the line. They're going to talk about the sweet volunteer, Emily, at the door, who was so attentive to their child. They're going to forget about that long line. If you don't give them that information, if you don't take the time, they get in the car, they're talking about the line, okay? So you've got to show that you're caring. You've got to show that you're being attentive when they're there during pickup. You know, I just want to make this one statement, because I think will kind of get you to understand how important that the pickup, specifically the pickup process is. Elevation Church is incredible. Like, arguably, Pastor Stephen Furtick is one of the greatest communicators of my generation. You may have a different opinion, but we'll just pretend you don't, because I love him so very much. He's an incredible communicator. Elevation Worship, I mean, like, if you've turned on your radio station anytime in the last little bit to Christian radio, you've probably heard Elevation Worship. It's incredible. Elevation Creative gets awards all the time, nominations for their work in videography and film. So when you come to Elevation, you're going to encounter Jesus, or at least have the opportunity to, for sure. And it's going to be impressive. This is the power that we have, people. Because it doesn't matter how relevant the message is. It doesn't matter how inspiring the worship is. It doesn't matter how well the video connected and resonated with you. If you come to that toddler classroom and your child's face is red and swollen from sobbing and they have a wet pull-up on, you will never come back to our church again. That's the power that we have. And we spend no time preparing for it. So that's what I'm talking about. We got to prepare for this because literally your church, the success and failure of first-time guests with kids, it is at your feet. That's how important this is that we're talking about. All right, so we've talked about care. Let's move on to the next stage of development, which is preschool. Now, this is the age of 1, 2, 3s and ABCs and preschool, and parents feel so much pressure at this point. How many parents do I have in the room that have preschoolers? Raise your hand if you have preschoolers. I mean, I honestly, I'm so glad that, social media wasn't huge, when I was, had preschoolers, because, there is so much pressure to be perfect. Do I go clean? Do I go organic? Do I do language immersion? I need to take a selfie. Hold on, let me take a selfie so everybody believes that I'm a good mom. There's so much pressure right now. And you know what? It's not necessarily pressure to, be a cool mom or be a good mom. It's because the pressure is because most moms and dads want to be a good mom and a good dad, and they don't know if what they're doing is right. And they need someone to partner with them to say, hey, I'll help you grow your child. I'll help you develop them mentally and spiritually and physically. We'll partner together and we'll help them. Now, how do you do that during drop-off and pickup? I know you're like, how do I convey growth during drop-off and pickup? Oh, you can. Let me tell you. So, we would sit our preschoolers in sweet little circles. They would always enter into small group, and they would exit out of small group, and they would sit in these sweet little circles, and we would always have some kind of developmental activity. Now, let's get real. These are preschoolers. They ran crazy for the first 50 minutes. But when mom and dad show up, they're sitting in a sweet little circle. Okay? We tried to grow them too, but they are preschoolers. But if we wanted to convey to parents, if we wanted to bring value to our ministry, then we needed to give them what they want and what they needed, and that was growth for their child. So we need to say, hey, we understand that you feel pressured right now to grow your child, that you want to make sure that they are bilingual and that they're eating good food and all of that, and we're here, we're going to partner with you through all of that. And that's how we did it for our preschool. Now, let's move on to our next age, which is elementary. Now, at elementary, it changes. I have one that's in the stage right now, and I'll tell you, I'm not so concerned about her care. I want her to be safe, obviously, but we're going to survive the 60 to 90 minutes of the worship service, And I'm not quite as concerned about her growth because, she's been in school for a while. I have a whole government system designed to grow her, and she's, in school and doing well. But you know what I really want? I really just want her to love church. I just want her to have fun when she goes to church. So the word for elementary age kids is engage, because we want them to have fun. Now, I want to tell you, I want to break the bubble here. It's going to hurt your heart. Kids don't come to church to learn about Jesus. They don't. Kids come to church. Kids come to church because they want to have fun and they want to make friends. That's why kids come to church. Now, when they're there, we want them to learn about Jesus. But they come to have fun and to make friends. So if you are taking fun out of the equation of your ministry, you are missing opportunities to engage with kids. It is really important that you make fun a priority in your ministry for elementary age. Now, how do you show that you're engaging kids during pickup and drop-off? So this is what we did. During pickup, we had this strategy called controlled chaos. Parents would walk in the room one direction, they'd walk out the next. They have stanchions. Everybody know what stanchions are? It's like those things at the movie theater. You'd walk in one side of the room, you'd walk out the other. There would be stanchions, and parents, their child's name would be called on one side. The parents would walk down the line, and they would watch their child be crazy. Their child's being crazy. Sometimes when I'm talking about crazy, I'm talking crazy, but fun and definitely educational sometimes. But it was they were definitely having fun. I remember one week we had a leaf blower, and we took Bible verses and we stuffed them, the paper Bible verses, and we stuffed them down in the leaf blower, and then we during pickup, and parents are coming in like, oh my gosh, what is this? Why is it snowing Bible verses? And why is there a crazy man with a leaf blower on the stage? But I'll tell you, when we were doing that and parents were there to pick up their kid, mom would walk in, Ethan, mom would like watch, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then Ethan would turn around and say, magic word, Mom, can I just stay one more minute, please? Just one more minute? Man, if a kid is begging to stay at church, you are winning. And if the last thing that they experience is their child begging to stay at church, oh, believe me, they're going to engage with your ministry because you just brought value. You just brought worth to what you do. So that's how we would do. We would do controlled chaos. Now, I'm not against finishing in small group. I'm not against that. I will tell you, if you finish in small group, you better finish with a fun activity, or you won't ever have those magic words said. It needs to be fun. The last thing, the last element of your experience when parents are picking up, it has to be fun. And if you can make it big and crazy, that's even better. That word is engaged. Now, I know we don't have a whole lot of student pastors and people in the room, but this is like a full teaching, so I can't like leave it out because it comes in a package. So you can just take this back, because if you're going to align your strategy with volunteers, you should also include your middle school and your high school students in this strategy as well. So the word for middle school and high school is inspire. And the reason that it's inspire is because they're worried about the future. I mean, they're thinking about high school if you're in middle school. I have 2 juniors, and I'm worried about college, and I'm worried about careers, and I'm worried, is he going to actually take everything that I've taught him and like apply it to his life, you know? Or is he going to be living with me till he's 30? You know, like these are the things that are going through my head, you know, and I need you to inspire him, because most days my 16-year-old kids are like this. You know, like that's most days. And so if you can partner with me to where you're giving them engaging questions, you're inspiring them to think differently and to think about the future and think about what God has planned for their future, oh, believe me, you're bringing worth and you're bringing value. Now, I will say it's a little bit more difficult with students because they bring themselves, and so you don't really have the parent interaction, but you can still bring value and bring worth by communicating. Over-communicate with parents. Tell them what you talked about this week. Tell them the questions that they can ask their child. Make sure that parents are engaged and understand what's going on with your student ministry. Far too often, parents have no idea. They just know that their child goes in at 4:30 and comes out at 6:30, and like that's the extent of what happens. I think they learned about Jesus and they eat pizza. You know, like that's the extent of what most parents know. If you can communicate to parents and you can actually tell them what's going on, you will bring value. You will bring worth to your ministry. If we're going to engage and impact parents, we've got to give them what they want. Words create a common language. And if you'll take these words back and you'll say to your teams of volunteers, if you'll say, hey, listen, I know it's really important that we have a memory verse activity. I know that's really important. And I'm not saying we're not going to do that memory verse activity, but the most important thing is that kids have fun at church. So are we having fun at church? Because the word is engage. Are we engaging? That's the culture, that's the language, or that's the culture that you can build when you align your language. Care, grow, engage, inspire. Boil it all down to your volunteers. Make it super, super simple. Yes, we're still gonna do our curriculum. Yes, we're still gonna do our lesson. At the end of the day, the thing that matters most is that we care for kids, and not just that we care for them, that we relay that care intentionally to parents during the drop-off and the pickup process. These words will create a common language for you, and they'll keep everyone motivated and aligned and going in the same direction. And I'll just tell you right now, I have a fabulous, fabulous church. I go to North Point, which, you know, I live in Atlanta, so I go to North Point. North Point is pretty crazy good. I don't know if you've heard of Andy Stanley or not, but he's like up and coming for sure. If you haven't heard about him, you will. But you know, they totally get it. They totally understand. I mean, I want to just give you an example of how my church partnered with me this week. So my son plays varsity football, and he's going to camp this week. And the bus for camp has 2 buses that are leaving. There's one leaving at 6 p.m. and there's one leaving at 10. It's like a weekend camp. And I texted him and said, hey, he's not going to be back. I mean, he's not even going to get back to the school till at least 11 o'clock. Can I just bring him to the camp? Now, camp is like an hour and a half away, but I was like, can I just bring him to the camp? And the lady emailed me back immediately. Now, I want you to imagine, North Point is massive, like 40-something thousand people, okay? At the location that we go to, he's going to be like one of like 3,000 or 4,000 kids. And she said to me, Tell me what time he'll be there, and I'll make sure to have 2 volunteers that will drive him to camp. What? She doesn't even know me. I mean, she really doesn't. Like, she doesn't know who I am. And I was like, are you sure? I don't want to burden you. And she says to me, your child is not a burden. It is our honor and privilege to serve your family. Are we conveying that during drop-off and pickup? Is it our honor and is it our privilege? Are we bringing value? Are we creating remarkable moments? If we're not, we are literally giving away opportunities to impact and to engage with families. So let's create a common language. I hope and pray that you'll take this language back, you'll share it with your teams, and you'll create a strategy that will align with what parents are needing and wanting from you.